We were just looking to get away for a while. Life had been wearing us, too many faces we didn't trust anymore. So my girlfriend Sarah found old cabin rental tucked way back in the southern Appalachians. It just 2 weeks off grid, located in the bones of a mountain. The place sat at the end of a long winding dirt road. Just a creaky 2-story lodge with a wraparound porch, an old fire pit. We were in it deep. Far enough out that the closest gas station was an hour away and didn't take car. Far enough that if you screamed, you'd be screaming for no one but the trees. Oh God, it was perfect. The first 2 days were quiet. Peaceful, even. We hiked during the day, lit fires at night. Something strange happened on our 3rd night up in that cabin. I had a weird dream that night. It wasn't like any dream I'd ever had. I wasn't floating, or flying, or some old memory. No, this one was horrible. Too real. Like I was wide awake, trapping heat under a thick blanket of sweat, heart pounding. I was standing out front of the cabin. The porch was lit by the moon. Everything seemed normal until I looked toward our car. A man was crouched by the passenger side, moving with slow, careful hands. He was holding something heavy, glinting in the moonlight. A hammer. He was running straight at me, and there was a crazy look in his eyes. And then, from inside the dream, I heard Sarah's voice like she was outside the dream, calling to me. Baby, someone's at the door. Wake up. There's someone outside. I snapped awake like I'd been shot full of lightning. My whole body jerked, breath shallow and sharp. My shirt stuck to my back with sweat. Sarah was sitting up beside me, eyes wide and scared. I heard something, she whispered. Downstairs. My blood was already buzzing, every nerve on fire. I rolled out of bed, grabbed the Glock I kept in my duffel. I ain't the kind of man who travels without it, especially not this deep into God's country, where the law's more of a concept than a guarantee. We crept down the stairs, real slow. The cabin was still. I kept the muzzle low but ready. My hand was shaking, but not from fear, from instinct. That's when I saw him. Through the thin crack in the front curtains, bathed in pale blue moonlight, stood a man. Just like in the dream. Same build, same slow movement. He wasn't at the car this time. He was right at the damn front porch, fingers playing along the edge of the door like he was getting to know it. And in his other hand, I swear, a hammer. Not some claw hammer from a toolbox. Either this one looked handmade. Old, worn. My heart stopped. I raised the gun and swung the door open fast, like ripping off a bandage. He froze. For a split second, we just stared at each other. He was younger than I expected. Maybe late 20s. Dirty jeans, hair slick with sweat, and eyes wide and glassy. But he knew what he was doing. That hammer didn't drop. Don't move, I growl, back away. Now. Just looked at me like I was some military man. Then, real slow, he stepped back off the porch. 1 step. 2. And then he ran bolted into the trees without looking back. I chased him to the tree line, but stopped short. That forest. At night. No way. I wasn't about to follow a man with a hammer into the pitch-black Appalachians. I ain't that stupid. We called the sheriff's office. They searched a little, asked some questions, took our statements. But you could tell they'd heard stories like this before. Too many to count. Could have been a drifter, one of them said, spitting tobacco into the dirt. That man knew we were there. He was watching and waiting for the right time. We left the next morning, and still I ain't got answers. All I know is, if I hadn't seen him in my dream, we might have opened that door without a second thought. And maybe I wouldn't be sitting here, telling this story. I was 10 that summer. That was the year I nearly got pulled into something black and bottomless right here in our own neck of the woods. We didn't have much growing up in the rural part of the Virginia. Me, my older brother, Caleb, and Mama. Daddy was long gone, left one winter and never came back. There was one neighbor, and this man named Lunsford lived further up the ridge in a house with white vinyl siding and black mold creeping up the bottom boards. Didn't talk much, kept to himself, mostly, except when he didn't, and those times stuck with you. He had no kin that we ever saw, no dogs, no wife, just himself, and this big, out-of-place above-ground pool in the back of his yard. It always looked wrong, that pool. One day in July, hot as hell's stovepipe, me and Caleb were throwing rocks at a busted sign down by the old access road when Lunsford came walking up the slope. He was wearing jeans and a sleeveless shirt, skin pale like he never saw the sun. He looked down at us and grinned, lips tight, teeth too white. "You boys ever get the itch to cool off?" he said. "My pool's open. You come by and have yourselves some fun." Then he winked, and I swear my stomach went cold right then. Something in that wink was all wrong, like he knew we'd bite the hook. Caleb lit up, of course. Pool time for us was usually the creek, or maybe a mud hole if it rained right. But I didn't move, just stood there, staring at Lunsford's boots. I felt something deep in my gut twist, like a knot pulling tight around my spine. We didn't say much after he left, just walked back home, Caleb jabbering about cannonballs and backflips. I told Mama. She was husking corn on the back stoop when I told her. She froze, didn't even blink. Then she stood up, snatched Caleb by the collar, and dragged him up onto the porch. "You all listen here," she snapped. "You stay away from that house. I don't care if the devil himself offers you. You don't go up that way. That man ain't right. I seen how he watches. Eyes like a fox sniffing." Caleb groaned and stomped off, mad he wasn't gonna get to swim. But I stayed quiet. I knew Mama's tone, it wasn't fear. It was rage, the kind that burns cold. And sure enough, Lunsford never went nowhere. 2 days later, I seen him sitting on his porch, same jeans, smiling like he was in on a joke we'd all missed. Later that week, I spotted him lurking near the bottom of his property where it touched the old school path. Little trail, the local kids walk through the woods to the bus stop. I saw him standing there behind the sassafras trees, and he weren't just watching. He was following this girl's with his eyes like he was measuring her. Her shape. I ain't proud of it, but I hid behind a rock and watched him watch her. The look on his face still wakes me some nights. When I told Mama, she shouted to us and leaned by the front door. "Don't go up the trail no more," she told us. "Don't go near his fence line. Don't answer the door unless it's me. You guys hear me?" And then a couple of weeks passed. One morning, I woke up to sirens through the trees. Sheriff's trucks, lights bouncing off. Turns out that a girl was missing the night before. They found girl by mid-morning. Thank God she was alive, but too shaken up. Lunsford had lured her in with promises of a puppy, then had her trying on swimsuits in his den. Took pictures of her, left her locked in a room. Didn't take the sheriff long to find the rest folders on his hard drive, hundreds of them. Some with faces we recognized, some with names we didn't. He was taking pictures of the girls and saved them in his computer. He got arrested. He got sentenced, sure, but it weren't long. Year and a half, maybe 2. Then he came back. Same house. Same goddamn pool. Folks didn't talk much, but you could feel the shift. Kids stopped riding past his place. After that, Mama stayed alert, kept her shotgun close in case of some kind of trouble. But the years rolled on. Now I'm grown, with a boy of my own. Ended up moving down off the ridge, bought myself a little patch of land not too far from Mama's place. Still, every now and then, I catch myself wondering, does that man still live up there? It was late October when I first visited my partner's family, tucked away deep in a hollow outside Boone, North Carolina. The GPS had long since given up by the time we started climbing the last ridge, and the only directions we had were a scribbled note that said, "Turn where the oak leans east. If you hit the rusted truck, you've gone too far." I'd never been this deep into the Appalachian Mountains before. Not really. I'd driven through parts of Virginia and once hiked near Asheville. But that was the well-traveled stuff, the trails with gift shops near the lot and mile markers nailed to trees. This was something else. The roads were narrow, two-lane veins cutting along the belly of the cliffs. Everything felt older here. Wilder. We'd been on the road for nearly 5 hours, and about 40 minutes out from the family place, my boyfriend realized he needed to call ahead to let them know we were getting close. No service, of course. It was around 4 p.m. That's when we saw the general store. 2 rusted gas pumps out front, no card reader. An old Coca-Cola machine stood off to the side. So we pulled in. As soon as we stepped inside, I felt off. The kind of wrong you can't name, but your body knows. It smelled of oil, tobacco, and wet wood. He was the first thing I saw. A man sitting by the ice cooler near the front door. He wasn't doing anything. Not talking. Not reading. Just sitting. Just stared like he'd been waiting. His skin was the color of old newspaper, stretched tight over. His hair was thin, long, and gray. His clothes were all the same color, dirt. He looked like he'd been sitting in that same spot for 100 years. I tried not to stare. My boyfriend greeted the cashier, a woman in her 40s with bright red nails and a Mountain Dew hoodie. He asked to use the phone. She pointed to a rotary dial model sitting on a shelf behind the counter and went back to scratching off a lottery ticket. I moved through the store, trying to shake the chill. I turned down. I saw him again. I thought he just moved. Maybe he'd stood up and was shopping now too. But the way he appeared, it didn't make sense. I'd turned down the dog food aisle there. He'd be standing at the end, not moving, just watching. Then I'd double back, go 2 aisles over toward the fishing supplies, and there he was again. Same posture, same stare. I whispered to my boyfriend, told him we should go. Something wasn't right. He noticed the man too, but tried to brush it off. As we stepped out, I saw him again, only now he was no longer in the store. He stood at the edge of the gravel lot. Behind him, the forest opened into a dense thicket of black-limbed trees. He stood with his arms at his sides, perfectly still, watching. We got in the truck fast, locked the doors, and then he just started walking slowly toward the truck. He stopped when he reached the back of the truck, close enough to touch. I couldn't see his face anymore. The light was fading fast, 5:30 p.m. I remember because the dashboard clock glowed. Then all of a sudden he was gone. Oh my God, we just drove from there. Didn't speak for miles. Just kept glancing into the rear view, expecting to see him behind us again, standing in the road. But he never came back. But that night, I couldn't sleep. And that man, he wasn't just watching. He wasn't there to buy anything. He just kept staring with these strange, creepy eyes. I don't know what he wanted, but the way he looked at me gave me a bad feeling, like something was really wrong. Like he wanted to eat me or something. It was just past midnight. I just returned from seeing the new Wicked movie with my family, one of the rare nights I let myself step back from work and obligations. It was a good night. Or at least, it had been. My home sat tucked into the back of a large, divided mountain house deep in the Blue Ridge foothills of western North Carolina, one of 3 apartments carved into the aging wooden frame. I lived in the rear unit, which had its own entrance through a porch. A porch that always felt a little too exposed, too separate from the rest of the house. The house was quiet when I got in, unusually so. No muffled TV chatter from the guy upstairs, no footsteps overhead. Just silence, and that sharp mountain cold seeping through the old windows. I settled into my bedroom with my laptop, answering emails, reviewing some photos from a recent hike, letting the soft glow of my screen fill the dim room. About 20 minutes in, I started hearing a voice, a man's voice. Deep, murmuring, continuous. At first, I brushed it off. The tenant upstairs was a guy, and maybe he was just on a late-night phone call. The walls and floors in this old place weren't exactly soundproof. Still, something about it gnawed at me. I'd lived here for over a year, and not once had I heard a single voice from above, not even footsteps, really. The floors were solid, thick wood, built long before modern insulation. Why now? Why so clear? I paused my work and tilted my head, trying to pinpoint the source. The voice was low but steady, not angry, not loud, just constant, like someone having a conversation with himself. It didn't have the natural rise and fall of a phone call, more like someone monologuing in a trance. Then I remembered something that made my blood turn. My bedroom had a second door, one I never used. It connected directly to the back porch. The main porch door opened into the kitchen, but this other one, an old wooden thing with rusted hinges and a warped frame, was behind my dresser, completely blocked. I'd pushed the dresser there the day I moved in, and never gave it much thought after. It had no knob, just a tarnished brass keyhole and an old bolt that didn't line up properly with the latch. I figured the landlord forgot it was even there. And now, I was wondering if that was where the voice was coming from. I turned off my laptop and sat in the dark. Listened. The voice was still going. Rambling. Uneven now. I leaned closer to the door, just slightly, and sure enough, it was louder. More distinct. And suddenly, I realized something else, like someone moving inside the porch. My stomach dropped. I backed away from the door, heart beginning to thud in my chest. I didn't dare turn on the lights. I didn't want whoever it was out there to know I was listening. I tiptoed down the hall to the kitchen, where I could see the porch through the doorway. I kept to the shadows and peeked, and that's when I saw him. There was a man sitting cross-legged in the center of the porch, facing away from me. His hair was long. He rocked gently back and forth, arms wrapped around his knees, and he was muttering, still talking to himself in that low, steady drone. The voice I'd been hearing the entire time I'd been home. He was just feet away from me, and he had been there the whole time. My brain was shouting, call the police, get out, hide, but I didn't move. I stood frozen in that kitchen doorway, watching this stranger in my porch like something out of a nightmare. Then something in me snapped, some wired, buried instinct. Maybe it was anger. Maybe it was the violation. I wasn't thinking anymore. I stormed forward and threw open the kitchen door to the porch. Hey! I screamed. What the hell are you doing? Get the hell out of here. He didn't even turn around. He just paused in his rocking, tilted his head ever so slightly to the left, and said in a slow, unnervingly calm voice, "My name is Alan." That stopped me in my tracks. He still hadn't looked at me, still hadn't moved. I felt the blood drain from my face. Something about the way he said it, like he was introducing himself to a child, so deeply wrong. Like he wasn't afraid. "I don't care what your name is," I bark, forcing myself to sound braver than I felt. "You need to get out. Now." He rose to his feet slowly, arms still lifted slightly in surrender, and said again, in that same light tone, "I know. I know. I'm hiding." I didn't know why it disturbed me so much, but it did. Maybe it was because he still hadn't turned around to face me. And that's when I lost it. "I don't give a damn what you're doing," I shouted, stepping forward now, fists clenched. "This is my house. You don't belong here. If you don't get off this porch right now, I swear I'll call the police. I had no weapon, no plan. I was just running on terror and rage. But something about my voice must have gotten through, because he finally turned slowly and looked at me. And then, with slow steps, he backed out through the porch door and vanished into the night. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even sit down. I stayed in the living room with a hammer from the tool drawer, shaking, watching the porch through the blinds until dawn broke through the trees. The police came hours later, took a report, said there had been some transients spotted along the area. Probably just someone looking for a place to crash. There's no reason a man should be sitting in someone's porch for over an hour, murmuring to himself in the dark. I've since replaced both porch doors, reinforced the locks, and installed a camera. But I still can't shake the feeling that someone hidden for reason I don't even know